In the All In podcast, the hosts start off by discussing the potential impact of Joe Manchin entering the presidential race, based on an op-ed Manchin wrote in the Wall Street Journal criticizing the Biden administration's handling of inflation reduction. The other participants in the podcast offer their opinions on the matter, with some suggesting that Manchin is a formidable candidate, and others pointing out that his claims of deficit reduction in the Build Back Better bill were unlikely to be achievable. The conversation then moves towards the idea of a Democrat and Republican merging to run for office, with David Friedberg suggesting that this could be a highly disruptive idea in American politics. The participants then discuss how Google is struggling because of cultural issues that exist in its middle management. Chamath argues that a degree of disruption is necessary to shift the cultural seasoning at Google, and that they need a bomber-type moment to reinvigorate the business. They also argue that the problem with Google is not the CEO or the founders, but rather middle management. There are too many people with opinions, and they're not shrouded in survival but rather an elite language that focuses on ethical and moral concerns rather than efficient decision-making. In contrast, successful companies like Facebook and Elon Musk's companies have minimal middle management that can get in the way of product development and shipment. The group also discusses the potential risks associated with AI, with concerns over machines flooding information channels with propaganda and untruth or automating away all jobs, including fulfilling ones. While recognizing the positive impact of AI in the short term, with examples such as its ability to diagnose illnesses and cure diseases, the speakers also express concerns about the role of AI in the future. They suggest that as AI becomes smarter and gains the ability to write and update its code recursively, it may lead to a speciation event and become uncontrollable. The speakers also note that the pace of innovation in AI is accelerating and competition among companies for AI capabilities is increasing, which may lead to the possibility of some companies taking off constraints to win and remain competitive. Friedberg brings up the example of gene editing and how once the code was out, anyone could make CRISPR-Cas molecules and different variants for gene editing emerged. Similarly, he believes that even if we put regulatory constraints or create IP around AI technology like GPT-4, it would be hard to contain because of its extraordinary extendability. Friedberg suggests that a copy of the model could be made, and new training data and evolutions could be done separately, leading to many variants emerging. He also mentions the echoing point made by Chamath, that we don't know what's ultimately going to win and whether the network effect in the plug-in model will give OpenAI a sustainable competitive advantage. Furthermore, the speakers discuss the impact of automation on white-collar jobs. They give an example of a Reddit post from a 3D artist at a small games company whose job has been replaced by Midjourney version 5. The technology allows for good-looking pictures to be produced quickly without requiring the artist's skills. The artist expresses grief and anger towards the loss of his job and the dystopian feeling that AI has taken it away. The speakers also suggest that companies like Tata Consulting Services, Accenture, and Cognizant will be the first ones to figure out how to displace human labor using AI technology to create better utilization and squeeze operations expenditure. While some argue that increased productivity will lead to job loss, others believe that it will increase prosperity and growth, creating more new opportunities. They point out that AI tools are making it easier for people to create startups and execute their ideas without needing to raise venture capital or recruit employees. The speakers also noted that AI-powered tools are making it easier for junior engineers to become more productive and efficient in their work. They use the example of how agricultural equipment increased the unit of output per farmer by millions of times, but no one wants to do the backbreaking labor anymore. They also talk about how AI can be used for personalized art and entertainment, leading to an acceleration of evolution and personalization in these fields. There are concerns about whether the increased efficiency of AI is different from anything that came before it, and whether this will lead to significant job loss. However, the emergence of autonomous systems that have some level of judgment challenges this preservation of human judgment. The host suggests that despite the current level of judgment being not great, the pace of innovation will eventually lead to a judgment that is perfect. An example is given of planes that can now have 50x the number of sensors with a computer that can guarantee a perfect landing every single time, in all kinds of weather conditions. The host raises the point that digital photography and animation originally faced resistance from artists who felt that their judgment was being usurped, but the emergence of new art forms and areas of human creative expression eventually surfaced. He acknowledges that the level of judgment that AI offers is not the same as the level of judgment offered by tools such as Kai's power tools for digital artists. The host notes that there are closed-loop systems being developed, such as one in front of the FDA for cancer detection, that will not need any human input, achieving a 0% error rate. He emphasizes that this is happening at a level that it has never happened before, and that technology is challenging our abilities to have judgment. The host acknowledges this, but also notes that there are unfathomable sets of things that will emerge and create new jobs that people enjoy, just as Instagram influencers and personal trainers have emerged in the past couple of decades. While some argue that AI will make jobs more productive and efficient, others suggest that it will lead to the elimination of human judgment, causing system errors and job loss. The short-term and long-term consequences of AI are debated, with some arguing that AI will replace jobs similar to jobs that were replaced in the past like phone operators, travel agents, copy editors, and accountants. Some suggest that AI will not replace developers, at least not for a decade or two, as the demand for software development remains high. The discussion ends with a brief mention of the proposed bill to ban TikTok, which comes with penalties for American citizens found using the banned software. Friedberg expresses his concern about the potential threat to the open internet posed by the U.S. government's language on protecting the safety and security of the American people by monitoring network traffic and making decisions about what network traffic is allowed to be transmitted across the open internet. He feels that the language being used and the set of behaviors from the government appear similar to those in China, where the internet is controlled and monitored, and freedom of choice is limited. He believes that this kind of activity creates a precedent that leads to a very slippery slope that takes away all ability to have true privacy and all rights to privacy on the open internet. Regarding the topic of VPNs, Friedberg explains that VPNs allow users to anonymously access internet traffic, bypass local agencies or ISPs, and access internet traffic via remote destinations so that the ultimate consumption of content that you're using can't be tracked and monitored. He thinks that saying that this can now be restricted takes away all freedom of choice and the right to privacy on the open internet. Sachs also expresses his concern that the bill is a complete overreach and a bait and switch by the government because the language of the bill is so vague that some clever prosecutor may want to pursue this theory one day. He also thinks that the bill is broad and is giving sweeping powers to the executive branch to declare foreign companies to be a threat. He believes that this bill should have nothing to do with the American consumer, and everything to do with a foreign adversary collecting data of Americans at scale. The speakers expressed their disagreements with the idea that banning TikTok is necessary to protect Americans from being tracked by the Chinese Communist Party. They argue that such a ban would give excessive power to the security state to surveil and limit internet usage, which is a significant power grab. The host suggests that if the government's concern was truly about TikTok's security issues, a one-sentence solution would suffice, indicating that the proposed ban is not proportional to the problem. The comments reflect their concerns about overreach and may be understood within the context of current debates around privacy and national security. They highlight the potential dangers of creating excessive systems of surveillance and institutional power. The arguments are also supported by examples and analogies, such as comparing the proposed ban to a bait-and-switch tactic, which further illustrates his points. The hosts then talk about Joe Manchin, a Democrat who has figured out how to get elected in a deeply Republican state, but is too far to the right to appeal to the Democratic Party's voter base. They also mention Chris Christie, who they dismiss as pointless. The conversation then shifts to David Sachs' recent blog post on the use of AI to acquire proprietary training data for startups. He discusses his use of the ChatGPT plugin to generate ideas and a draft for the post, emphasizing that while AI can be helpful, humans are still involved in the editing and refining process. Sachs shared the positive experience in using ChatGPT as their writing partner, and how it helped him write a blog post in a day, which would have otherwise taken a week. They also discuss how ChatGPT can be used for ideation and to speed up the writing process. The speakers also touch upon the advancements OpenAI has made in developing plugins for ChatGPT that allow it to interact with other sources, like OpenTable, Shopify, Instacart, etc., and execute tasks, making it ideal for startups to build intelligent agents that can perform automated background tasks. One of the speakers opines that OpenAI's launch of ChatGPT could be considered the most important developer platform since the iPhone's launch and the App Store's introduction, and maybe even the biggest breakthrough since the beginning of the internet. The initial plan for OpenAI was to make AI capabilities available through their developer platform in a similar way to Stripe's payment functionality. However, the announcement of the ChatGPT, which gained more than 100 million users in just 2 months, changed the direction of OpenAI. The ChatGPT became the fastest growing site of all time, and it is now a destination site, not just a developer platform. Through plugins, users can incorporate the ability to perform any task that can be done through an application. For example, if a user wants to book a plane ticket, it will go into Kayak's plugin and do that. The incorporation of natural language models makes the ChatGPT perform more naturally, which was not possible with Siri and Alexa. The incorporation of existing APIs with natural language models creates a suite of services that are not well integrated into a search or chat interface. This integration closes the loop between search and commerce in a way that Google cannot do today. The possibility of presenting results in the form of a table, matrix, or interface brings real opportunities to build on top of that capability and functionality to make things easier and better for consumers on the internet. Consequently, the discussion revolves around whether this capability will be broadly available, and what are the real blockers for this to happen. The host switches the discussion to the convergence of different models and user destination, language models, and third-party services in the absence of highly unique data. This means that unless a model has exclusive access to a rare and valuable data set, it will not be significantly better than its competitors. However, there are assets such as Reddit, Stack Overflow, Quora, and Twitter's data set that could be valuable and potentially block competitors if exclusive licenses or acquisitions were obtained. The hosts caution that it is too early to determine the ultimate importance of these models, though they are likely to be significant. They also express concern about the negative perception of Silicon Valley and the need to maintain reputational capital through thoughtful experimentation rather than hype. Sachs predicts that this convergence may be even bigger than the internet, or mobile as a platform shift. Friedberg argues that OpenAI has a significant lead in AI because it has gained millions of users and developed platform features that other language models don't have. For instance, OpenAI's ChatGPT has a browser plugin that enables it to search the internet as if it were a human to find accurate answers to questions. This plugin saves time and gives browsing history to show how it came up with the answer. Additionally, OpenAI has a retrieval API that allows developers to share their proprietary knowledge bases with ChatGPT, making it smarter as it learns more. The host believes that OpenAI's AI will get smarter as users and developers continue to use and share information with it. However, the other speaker, Sachs, disagrees, saying that Facebook and LinkedIn will block access to their data corpus from OpenAI. Sachs believes that many companies with significant data will not allow APIs into their data and will keep it for themselves. Nonetheless, Friedberg argues that plugins will become promiscuous and refutes Sachs' premise in the long run. They argue that chatbots like ChatGPT could gain a substantial portion of browser and app usage because they provide quick answers without having to go through multiple links. However, one host suggests that Google will turn on BERT, a similar chatbot, and make it a default on their search return page, built into YouTube, Chrome, Android, and the Play Store. This could give Google a competitive advantage since it already has billions of users compared to ChatGPT. Additionally, the hosts discuss the incentives of large companies like Microsoft and Facebook to bundle chatbots into their existing distribution channels to suppress the ability for users to go to a standalone application. There may also be competition between different chatbots, with some companies violating the terms of use of others to train their own AI in a bid to catch up with state-of-the-art technology. The hosts note that the pace of innovation and development in the chatbot industry is likely to increase significantly in the future. Chamath argues that there is a strong counter-argument to the idea of big companies catching up with OpenAI and that if history is any guide, the real opportunities for making tons of money emerge in the early third of the cycle of transformative moves. However, it's still too early to make any predictions. Sachs agrees that OpenAI will likely be one of the top 2 or 3 players, but the big 4 players in the AI industry are Microsoft, Google, Facebook, and Apple. They discuss who among these players will have the biggest user base and most innovative product offering in a year or two. Sachs mentions that the advantage OpenAI has is that the incumbents are handicapped by their current scale, and that Google, in particular, has been targeted by governments around the world with respect to their scale and monopolistic behavior. As a result, many people are frustrated that they can't unleash the toolkit that Google has built, and Google has been forced to focus on internal capabilities rather than building great consumer products for fear of the backlash that would arise. Sachs argues that Google is behind but has probably good competitive talent, if not better, and the best corpus of data upon which to train the best capabilities, which means that the battle is theirs to lose if they are willing to disrupt themselves. He says that this is the moment for Larry and Sergey to wield their founders' shares and make the right decisions for the long-term future of the company, even if it means taking a cost in the short term and disrupting themselves. The conversation ends around Google's potential to disrupt itself and push forward with AI advancements. They discuss the importance of regulatory scrutiny and the challenge for governments and public policy people to address the potential for revenue hits to realize the opportunity. The hosts mention the lack of action with the founders' shares in Google, and the need for the company to break itself into smaller components to wield its power efficiently. One point made is that Google has many users asking questions in various locations like Google Docs, Gmail, and YouTube, providing a wealth of reinforcement learning data for the company. However, the founders may face backlash for such a move, as seen with Mark Zuckerberg's experience. The listeners also observe the cultural seasoning at Google, which operates at the executive and board level to protect the company's interests without overreaching. The potential for Larry and Sergey to become co-CEOs is discussed, as is the possibility of them hosting the next Google I/O to showcase their products. The host speakers feel that there are concerns about Google's ability to catch up with OpenAI. Although it has all the resources and proprietary assets, it may need to compete in the market fully. Check out the full podcast by clicking the link in the description below. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this. Thank you for listening to this podcast summary episode of the Pod Slice.